I do think that being able to have a voice in this very, turbulent time helps me stay sane. I don't like just watching TV news and pelting the screen with, Rotten Tomatoes. I like being able to have a voice and talk to, people who are in the arena about what we're gonna do and what the plan is. I don't even just mean politically, I mean in terms of health, in terms of mental health, in terms of environment, in terms of our lives. It helps to be able to talk to really smart people.
On cam ready in three, two, one.
This is Unknown to Known, an on cam ready presentation. I'm Jamie Maglietta. Today's guest is someone you may have watched while sipping your coffee in the morning or listened to during breaking news. She is Alisyn Camerota. From Fox and Friends weekends to CNN, she has been there in the morning to help you understand and wrap your head around what's going on in the world. And today she's going to share a little bit about who she is, something that she really never discussed before her book, which just came out in a new paperback cover. I am reading through this book, and one thing that stood out to me was this line that she says: TV news anchors are trained to keep their own histories and feelings under wraps. In this book, she reveals so much about what makes her who she is today. The hardship that she faced is part of how she continues to be so resilient and captivating on camera because she truly does try to relate with those she's interviewing. And she can relate in some instances as well. Now we're both on this journey of exploring new media, and I wanted to use this episode to just share all that she's doing. She's doing so much. And what's so impressive is that she is doing it constantly with a smile. She is one of the kindest people I have ever worked with. I can't stop raving about her. And I know you're going to really, truly enjoy this conversation, and you're going to appreciate even more when you read her book. You're going to want to watch on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I have conversations with television personalities, YouTubers, influencers to really help you navigate the new media space so you can become unknown to known within your industry. Now, remember, this journey is hard and we're on it together. But there are things that you can learn from those who have gone before you. And I'm trying to make sure that you can tap into my network and benefit from knowledge that they have so you can explore with a little bit more of an understanding of how to show up consistently and confidently. Now, before we get to her, I really want to just showcase a few things that she's been up to. While Alisyn is out with her Combat Love memoir, she's also making the rounds on YouTube. Right now, she is co-anchor of the Sanity podcast. Let me bring that up so you can see it on YouTube. If you're watching, you can see the YouTube page. And if you are listening on your podcasting platform of choice, be sure to find Sanity and give it a follow. I've been working on this show with Alisyn and Dave Briggs, and it would be really great if you listen and leave a review. Those are gold. It's like currency. This show is under the Mediaite umbrella, and I highly recommend it. Let me get to the other project that she has going on. She's also working with Dave on the Connecting America morning show. And this morning show is being filmed at a diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey, which I just found out. And as you can see on the channel, they're really trying to get a pulse of the people around stories that are making news every day. And it's worth checking out. Again, as I keep saying, going to YouTube and podcasts is hard. Any support you can give is appreciated by us all. If you are listening to this and you love that I'm trying to rally support around other channels and you yourself are on your own journey from going from unknown to known, pitch me, send me an idea. Maybe there's a podcast conversation that we can have. Having a podcast or a YouTube show, it really does take a grassroots effort if you're not easily going viral. Now, the Sanity show has had some great success, and being under the Mediaite umbrella truly does help. Same with Connecting America. They bring on guests, but it's just not getting the pickup as quickly as all of us imagine it would be when we start showing up. It takes time. You have to be consistent and you have to show up every day and just realize you're going to be hustling along for a while without the results you thought you would see in the first, few months. She also has a podcast focused on pancreatic cancer. We'll talk about this in the conversation. Her husband passed away a year ago and she has been open about it, but I didn't want to dig too deep. This conversation is really all about trying to help you explore and become more comfortable on camera, but it was something I needed to bring up to show that she's still showing up despite the hurdles and the challenges that she has in her own personal life right now. And you may be able to relate to her story. Alisyn is a true example of self motivation. So if you feel like you're self motivated and you know you can do it, you're like, I can be on camera, I can do more, I could have my own show, I know I can do this and I'd be happy doing it. Embrace that motivation and keep on going. All right, guys. I'm really not a motivational speaker, but every time I'm on this mic, I find myself trying to get you all to just start showing up no matter what you got going on at home. Embrace the mess and put yourself out there. All right, let's get to this conversation. It's a good one. I'm so excited to have you here. I really want to dig into your memoir, which I have linked to the description, guys. Here's her latest book. The new cover is out. But let's reintroduce you just a little bit to the audience. You've had a fascinating career, CNN, Fox News Channel. And when I was at Fox News Channel, that's when we crossed paths. I was producing Fox Extra, and you kindly would volunteer to help me produce some lifestyle segments or
I think I was
around a book.
like, do you think I volunteered? I recall my boss being like,
Yeah.
"Today you have to do this. Go find Jamie."
Yeah. And it was, everyone was so kind when I would say, hey, we got to record like 29 spots. If you really think about it, that was the beginning of Reels. They were short segments.
Great point. Yeah, you were still ahead of the curve with that.
So ahead. And then we were at Fox and Friends together, and the weekends were brutal for me. I remember, sleeping with my Blackberry and snuggling up with it at night and barely sleeping. So when you got to Fox and you're like, I'm at this huge cable network, what was that feeling like for you? If you could just take me back to that first kind of moment walking in.
I was so excited that I'd gotten this big national job. I was living and working in Boston at the time, and the show that I had moved there for, it was this NBC morning show, was canceled. So I was really kind of bereft because I loved this show. It had a lot of promise, and then it got canceled. And then I had no job, and I had to pay my rent, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And my old college friend, Rick Leventhal, was working at Fox News Channel and told me, there's this great new network called Fox News Channel and it's national and it's going to be fantastic. You should send a tape. And I sent a tape and they hired me sight unseen. I mean, they had seen me, I guess, because I sent a tape, but I never had a conversation with Roger Ailes. I never had a conversation with any of the executives. My agent just called and said they want to hire you. So that I felt like I hit the lottery. I was so excited that I was going to be making, they were paying good money. It was going to be national. I was going to have my own cameraman and my own producer to travel around the country and report on these stories. So I was really, really excited. And that was before I came to the New York bureau. And when I went to the New York bureau, I was super excited too, because that meant I was filling in anchoring. So I'm very, very grateful for all of the opportunity that I got at Fox. I mean, there were definitely lots of hard times, including the hours that you're talking about. The morning hours don't agree with me. They're really physically punishing. I mean, really an ass kicker. And so I've never liked, though I'm known as a morning show anchor and I've done it successfully at CNN and before that Fox, it's always been really hard for me. But yeah, I'm still grateful for all that opportunity that I got.
And it's a mindset, right? You have to push yourself out the door when that alarm goes off every morning. And I find myself telling experts who want to start showing up on camera that they just need to have that consistency and that practice so that they will start showing up confidently on camera. And I just wonder if you have any thoughts on that that could help the audience who's really trying to navigate this new media space and go from unknown to known in their own industries.
Well, it just takes hours logged. I mean, there's nothing like practice. There's that famous saying that you become good at something after doing it for 10,000 hours. And I know that to be true. I sucked.
Mhm.
Here's what I'd like your listeners to know. I was not a natural. I sucked on camera. I went to college for broadcast journalism and I would be sent out on campus with the campus TV, camera and microphone. And I did not have a natural like aptitude for this. And truly, it was just through my own perseverance, my own ambition, and doing it a million times that I've gotten comfortable. So, you just have to log those hours in front of a mirror or practicing it or doing a podcast over and over or public speaking over and over again. There are some people, very few that I've come across who were like natural born camera ready people, but I was not one of them.
I'm going to hit pause on this conversation to let you know about my recording platform, Riverside FM. I've been using Riverside for a few years now, and I highly recommend it for all your content creation needs. If you want to try out Riverside, check out the link in the description and use my code OCR15 for a discount. While you're on your content creation journey, if you're also looking to improve your brand, I have a group for you. I've been using Brand Builders. This is such an incredible program. I am writing out my course, which you can join. The waitlist is out and you can put your name down. There's a link in the description, but my course is on how to become on cam ready. And without brand builders, I wouldn't have known to include frameworks in every lesson to help you stay organized. Brand builders is what I highly recommend if you are an entrepreneur trying to navigate the new media space and become unique in your niche. It's also a great opportunity to build out your thought leadership. So check out Brand Builders. There is a link to that as well in the description. Now, before we get back to the show, I do want to add one more thing. Amazon is a great place to shop for your content creation equipment. Visit my Amazon storefront for microphones, teleprompters. I have tripods, lights, whatever you need. I have tested it out and I put together a curated list of products that can help you show up on cam ready. Now back to the conversation. One thing I constantly tell people is you can become confident by creating content. And as you create content, like in this current era, like we're creating social media clips, the more content you create, the more confident you're going to become. Because as a producer, each show was a rehearsal for the next day. It's like, how did that segment do? It wasn't really that great. Did we like this guest? No. How about that tease? Not so much. Let's try it a different way next time. And the same thing can apply to whatever, you're doing at home. Whoever's listening and thinking, I want to start showing up on camera and I don't know how. What Alisyn is saying is so true. Practice makes perfect. So you've also talked about how surviving the chaos in the newsroom, and it was very chaotic. How did you translate that into maybe your strength on camera?
All of that is true. I think that breaking news, for me, breaking news, which is chaotic and you don't exactly know where you're going, and you don't really have all the facts and you don't know what the story is,
Mm.
that was actually liberating in some ways for me because I realized, okay, the audience doesn't need this to be perfect. There are some pieces that I would do, which were long form and they were taped and they had to be beautifully lit and the questions had to be poignant. And that in some ways was more pressure because you really do want that to be flawless. With breaking news and the chaos that you're referring to, it can't be flawless. By definition, people are running around, you're getting information at the last minute, you're throwing a microphone on, you're going live. And so I just knew I knew the audience would forgive me, if for making mistakes. And sometimes with breaking news, what you can say is, the details are just coming in right now. These are very early hours. This is what we know at the moment. We'll correct this when we get more. But at the moment, let me just tell you what I've just heard. So that kind of thing, being transparent, I guess, with the viewers and the listeners really helped to know, like, you can kind of be candid with them and peel back the veneer, the mask a little bit and be like, hey, we're all in this together.
Producing breaking news is very much like maybe producing your own life as you're dealing with chaos. when you're facing that challenge head on, you really want to find that calm clarity so you can breathe through those moments and get through it. And that's how it is when we're producing breaking news. And I definitely think that, you're right. When we're on air, we just have to be transparent. And for those that are listening, if you're trying to show up on camera and you just are like, I really can't get over my own personal hurdles, think of it this way. You just need to embrace the mess. And I want to make sure that I mention, Alice and I did also cross paths at CNN. And I have this photo of myself and her. I was up in New York once and I was like, Allison, can you take a photo with me? Tell me more about your life after TV.
So, as you know, and I'm sure all the listeners know, legacy media and all television journalism has changed a lot since I first got into it decades ago now. And it was starting to splinter. It was starting to be owned by, at CNN, we had this experience where we just kept being bought by different kind of corporate overlords, from
Yeah.
ABC to Warner Brothers to, whatever was next. And with each change, some of the identity and leadership changes, some of the mission statement then changes. And, I just felt that there was a lot of belt tightening going on and that it wasn't as fun, frankly, as it had been in previous years and previous decades. And I don't just mean CNN, I mean this entire industry. And that's really a shame because I do think that we need journalism and we'll always need facts and we'll always need information. So it was not heartbreaking for me to leave CNN at the end of 2024 because there's this whole new world of new media where journalists now can speak much more directly to their viewers or listeners. You really peel away any kind of middleman. And on Substack, one of the great things is it's just immediate. You hit a button and you can go live, or you hit a button and says publish. I know from having written Combat Love, it took years. I mean, I've written 2 books now. Both of them took years. I had these ideas. They were rattling around in my head. It takes a long time to write them. And then it takes a really long time to sell the book and publish the book. Well, nowadays with Substack, you can cut that part out. You can write in real time, hit publish, and everybody reads it that day. And that's, just a completely different paradigm than what we've had in the past.
And speaking of the fact that you've written 2 books, we had Steve Kars, he's the owner of King of Pops, and he and I met. We were doing social media together, and he had a question for you. So let me play this out for you.
Hey everybody, Steve Kars here, co-founder of King of Pops. I wrote this book. It came out in April. Work is fun. It's about how can you make your day, your life, your work a little bit more fun. And I'm trying to figure out ways to promote it. Do you have any ideas? What should I do?
That's a great question, Steve. Here's one of the mind-blowing things I learned after writing 2 books. You as an author, at least I, thought, well, that was great. Bucket list checked. I wrote 2 books. Oh, no. That's only half of the responsibility with the book. Now you have to sell it. You have to promote it. You have to get it into readers' hands and distribute it somehow. And so, your publishers are busy. They have a lot of authors. They don't always do it as well as you do. So, Steve, obviously social media is a great way to do it. Obviously book clubs. I'm sure that in your local city, you have access to some people who are in a book club. Go there, speak to those book clubs, go to different book events. I've loved going to some book festivals in Tucson, in Miami. I have an upcoming one in Aspen. Those are the best because they're really packed with readers who are hungry to get your book. So yeah, you got to pound the pavement, Steve. And your book looks great. And I hope it comes with a delicious frozen pop.
I'm going to jump to your book because we're talking books here. Combat Love. In an AP interview, you said writing it gave you this emotional closure. So writing a memoir, I'm curious, like, how did this process feel and what did it unlock in you?
I felt like I had so much kind of unfinished business from my teenage years. I grew up in suburban New Jersey, Monmouth County, New Jersey, which is, was I considered the epicenter of the universe. I had really cool friends. We had a great kind of marauding band of teenagers that I was a part of, a great community, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then when I was 15, just when I'd kind of made it into the cool, crowd, my mother decided to move us 1,000 miles away to the upper northwest corner of the United States to a town called Bellingham, where we knew no one. And so I left the only home I'd ever known, the only friends I'd ever known, and moved. And then I was really desperate for community. And because of that uprootedness, and then as you'll read in the book, I then live in 6 different houses over the space of the next 2 years. So there wasn't any stability. All the stability that I'd had fell away. The foundation of my family life fell away. I left home at 16. I got myself into lots of dicey and dangerous situations during the course of all of this. And there were some things that I felt I needed to put the puzzle pieces back together. Some of these things were just vivid memories in my head, but I couldn't quite understand the story that they told until I wrote it all out. So for me, writing a memoir, a lot of it started with journals, started with my diaries, started with personal letters to friends. And then I put the pieces together to figure out the arc of my life, basically.
I was so captivated by how much you could recall. And you clearly state that you spoke to everybody to try to iron out all of your accounts and memories to make sure it was as factual and as truthful as possible because you're young in the beginning of the book.
I felt the need to do that because I'm a journalist. And so I didn't want it just to be my memory. And although I do have a very excellent memory, particularly for that vivid time for me, my adolescence and my teenagehood is quite technicolor, is still in my mind for me because it was such an intense time. But I recognize that there can be, a few different versions of stories. So I went back to all of the people in the book, all of the characters, and got their version of events too, which always dovetailed with mine. There was nobody who I talked to who was like, that didn't happen that way. Everybody might have different details slightly that they gave me, but my memory was pretty sound. And that was important to me. And it's interesting, Jamie, because I'm about to go interview James Fry, who famously wrote the bestseller Million Little Pieces, which was billed as a memoir. And then he got into trouble with Oprah and got into trouble because it turned out that he had fabricated portions of it. And that was a cautionary tale to me. Like, I didn't want somebody to come back and be like, that never happened, because there are some intense moments in there. As I said, I'm really flirting with disaster in some of these. So I'm happy to say that since the book has been published, nobody's been like, had any wanting to do any fact checking that didn't pan out. It all, I think people agree that that's just how it actually unfolded, the story.
And I'm going to, guys, you need to read this book. Remember, the description includes the link, so grab the link to the book. In the book, I'm going to give something away, so if you're reading it, you may not want to listen, but you talk about your father's crime spree. I'll keep it generic here, guys. That happening, and then the moving, and just the struggles of growing up, right? That might not have been as productive for others, right? Other people might have been really negatively brought down by all that and never attained the success that you have had in your life. So what happened to make you Alisyn and where you are now? Do you credit any of that to your upbringing?
I do, because I felt that I had to fend for myself. So often I believed that people didn't really have my back. My parents were divorced. My mother was working a lot. My father, as you'll read in the book, was a bit of an eccentric character, and he sometimes drank too much. I just didn't feel as though the people tasked with taking care of me were kind of able to do it. And so I felt that I had to fend for myself, and that's often what I did. I was alone a lot of the time. I was the quintessential latchkey kid, and then I was fiercely independent. All of us were free range, all of the kids of that era, and certainly in my town, we were free range, but I was particularly free range and at loose ends where my parents didn't always know where I was or what trouble I was getting into. And I do think that the upside of that was that I'm very self-sufficient. I'm self-sufficient. I know how to get what I want. I know how to knock down doors, bang on doors, to get what I want. So I do think that kind of self-reliance when I was young did help me be a good journalist, because being a journalist is hard, Jamie. As you know, you're out in the cold, you're in foreign places, you are hiding in stakeouts in a crew van, and all of that stuff I felt like kind of naturally dovetailed with my skill set because of what I'd gone through as a teenager.
Right now, you're on your own version, you're on your own path to creating a known version of yourself on new media with your podcasts and your YouTube show. We know each other through Sanity, where you're hosting with Dave Briggs. So tell me about that format and what is it about Sanity that made you want to invest in that project?
So I really like what I love about new media is that you can really pull back the mask. Not that I ever felt that I was terribly masked at Fox or CNN. I feel like viewers really did get to know who I was, but now I can say whatever I want to say on Sanity because I'm not representing some other larger corporate organization. And I was always very aware that I was representing a larger corporate organization. I didn't want to embarrass them. Or in the case of Fox with Roger Ailes, I
Mhm.
knew that he had a certain worldview that I was supposed to be reflecting or I'd get in trouble. So there was always that tension. And now, if I have some question about Donald Trump, I can ask it of my guest and I don't have to phrase it a perfect way. I don't have to make sure that it's legally sound. I
Mhm.
can say, whatever I want. I just did a Sanity podcast where I talked about the FBI director, Kash Patel, and I really thought that his press conference showed how ill equipped he is to be the director of the FBI. He didn't know basic fundamental things about how long a manhunt usually lasts, how talented the law enforcement and FBI, the FBI agents are with how quickly they often find their suspects. He didn't seem to have a handle on that. And so I can say that now. I can call that stuff out. And I think that this moment really demands that. So I'm very happy to have that level of freedom with Sanity.
No, you're also co-anchoring Connecting America, as I mentioned. That's on the USA Today's streaming platforms. And there's a YouTube link in the description. So, how has that been for you? Your kind of return to morning TV?
Jamie, I feel like you're burying the lead, that you're not saying that Connecting America is from your homeland, your motherland of New Jersey. It's set in a diner, in the very diner where you misspent part of your youth.
Yeah. I spent my wild New Jersey days at the Sunrise Diner where Connecting America is shot, where Alisyn spends every morning. Guys, Roselle Park, it's a great place. You got to visit. But how has this show been, returning to the mornings and
It's
cranking it out?
hard. I mean, the mornings, Jamie, are hard. Now, this one is easier because at CNN, I was getting up at 3:15 a.m. every day and doing a very, very demanding 3-hour live show with all sorts of presidential candidates, world leaders, scientific experts, and, doctors who are at the height of their careers. I was really dealing with kind of the biggest thought leaders in the world. So it was quite demanding, my research that I had to do to prepare my questions for that. Here at the diner, it's only 2 hours, not three. It starts at 7 a.m., not six. And most of the time, I can do it from what I call my global home quarters. So I can be in my own kitchen thanks to this new media world and be interacting with all of the diners in Roselle Park at the Sunrise Diner. So the miracle of technology allows me to not have to commute in.
That's great. And then I also mentioned that you have the how do I pronounce it? Pank Chat?
Oh yeah,
The podcast?
Pank Chat podcast, yes, about
Yeah.
all the new, God willing, advances that are being made in pancreatic cancer treatment.
And this came after your husband. So we've had a rough, I would imagine a rough year. And how do you keep on showing up so positively and taking on all these projects? Like, what is the mindset that just keeps pushing you to be so, like, honestly amazing?
Jamie, thank you. Yeah, it's very hard. It is very hard. This has been a very hard year. I'm not out of the woods at all, emotionally speaking. I'm still in deep grief. And the
Yeah.
only thing that I feel I can do is I have this skill set. I have
Mhm.
a skill set that I have honed over these decades of being a broadcast journalist. And when the doctors who were kind enough to help me when my husband Tim was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, when they were kind enough to get on the phone with me, even if they weren't the ones treating Tim, to be able to get on Zoom calls with me, to suggest things, to point out clinical trials, when they asked if I would help them spread the word, with this podcast about the advances in cancer treatment, I said, "Yes, I
Yeah.
will," because, I mean, it's just a one way that I can give back. So, it's hard. I mean, I do really enjoy doing this. I guess that I would say for your followers and your listeners, find something that you love doing. I like this kind of communication. I like doing an interview with you. I like producing this kind of content that is hopefully helpful to people in these troubling times. So that is some solace for
Mhm.
me, but there are definitely days that are harder than others, for sure. There are days that, it's really hard to get the energy to do anything other than mope around and be sad.
Mhm. And on that note, I'm going to ask you a question you ask your guests on Sanity. How do you stay sane, Alisyn? Through everything
There
going
you
on.
turn the tables on me, Jamie. I do think that being able to have a voice in this very turbulent time helps me stay sane. I don't like just watching TV news and pelting the screen with, rotten tomatoes. I like being able to have a voice and talk to people who are in the arena about what we're going to do and what the plan is. By that, I don't even just mean politically. I mean in terms of health, in terms of mental health, in terms of environment, in terms of our lives. It helps to be able to talk to really smart people. So that's one way. And then, I also do a lot of lying out in my backyard and watching the leaves billow in the wind. I definitely
Mhm.
take naps and lie down when I feel like I'm totally out of gas and I've run
Yeah.
down the batteries.
I can imagine the kids help too.
Oh my gosh, yes. They're so funny and such great companions and so smart. And I really love having kids this age. So I have, twin 20-year-old daughters and an 18-year-old son, and they just are endlessly fascinating to me.
It's like built-in friends.
Totally. Jamie, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
That's our conversation with Alisyn Camerota. I just want to say directly to Alisyn, if you're listening, thank you so much for joining us. You have such an inspiring career and story, and having gone from unknown to known in cable news and to share your knowledge with us is really, really appreciated. And now she is emerging in this new media space with Sanity and the USA Today show. So be sure to check out those two YouTube channels and give them a subscribe and like and comment on the videos. When we are showing up in other places that we're not known in, having that little cheering group really does help. And just like you, I'm unknown. I'm out here on a mission to help more people, but to go from unknown to known is really hard. And there's a ton of challenges along the way. And if you feel like you need some motivation before your next on camera moment, be sure to check out the Green Room Pep Talks. Alisyn will leave a Green Room Pep Talk for you that'll be our bonus episode following this one. So be sure to listen to that. And again, check out the links in the description. You can also buy her book from my Amazon storefront. So grab it when you can. And thanks again, Alisyn. And everyone, thank you for listening. I'll see you online.